So, how does one overcome the feelings of undeservedness, inadequacy, and of course, unworthiness? Well, you would do so in the very same way that you would overcome any other chemical dependency. And though most of us would not view emotional dependency as the same as a chemical dependency or a drug addiction, they're more the same than they are not. As a matter of fact, the reason why people become addicts is because they become hooked to that emotional experience. They become hooked to the feeling that they get from the drug. Otherwise, they would not use it, right? If you're using a drug as a form of escapism, then that means you're looking for that altered state of mind. Now, when we look at negative emotions or what we view as these negative emotional experiences, such as guilt, shame, fear, etc., we would think to ourselves, logically, rationally, why would I ever choose to be fearful? Why would I ever choose to be shameful? Why would I ever choose to have a guilt conscience? Surely no person would ever want those experiences for themselves. Well, guess what? If you think that, you're wrong. And I'm not saying that you're wrong. It's just that you're wrong, right? I'm not saying that you are wrong as a person. I'm saying that your premise and your thought process is a little off, right? Most of us are more addicted to the emotional experiences than we are addicted to the substances, right? How many true crackheads or true heroin addicts do you have in your life? Yet, how many guilt addicts or shame addicts do you know? Shoot, at least one, and you probably look at them in the mirror quite often, right? So inadequacy is the very same thing. Inadequacy is actually shame, right? Or a derivation of shame, right? It's how we classify shame once we actually put it into action. When we are in a feeling or in a state of undeservedness or unworthiness, I'm not good enough, that experience is shame. It's a belief that we are flawed. It's a belief that we're not enough, that there is something wrong with us. And so the way in which we overcome that is by first remembering why it is that we felt that way in the first place, and then why we continue to feel that way. So in the beginning, God created, I'm playing. In the beginning, there was you, a child, innocent and completely clear. You had zero downloads in your consciousness, right? Or in your conscious, at least. Your consciousness was already complete and absolute. That's the spirit. But in your psyche, in your mind, in your brain, in this microprocessor here, there was nothing programmed yet. It was the job of the individuals around you, parental figures, family, tribe, whatever it may be. It was their job to begin to program certain software into this piece of hardware. And so for most of us, we grew up in experiences where, whether consciously or subconsciously, we had messages of you're not good enough. A lot of that came from conditional love. A lot of that came from messages that may have been well intended, but still did not come off that way. Like today, I had an experience at the coffee shop, and it was eye opening to say the least. And I see these things more often than not now, but this one just really rubbed me the wrong way. And I really had to get in my feng shui. I had to get in my complete zen in order to not say something to this father. Now, there was this little kid, well, two little kids that were with their parents. The little boy was dressed up as Spider-Man. Actually, when I walked in, he was right in front of the door, and I looked, and I was like, Spider-Man, right? I go take my seat, and time goes by, I'm doing my thing, and I look over and I see the dad just looking at his son, and he's angry at him. And the mom had left, the sister had gone with, or the daughter, I guess, had gone with. And the dad's just looking at his son, little Spider-Man, and he's like, see, now we have to leave, and it's all your fault. Because you wouldn't stop talking, now we have to leave. That's what the dad kept saying to the kid. And you could see this child was broken and he was conflicted. He was angry, then he was sad, then he was confused. And then he started saying, Dad, like, please don't leave me. Don't leave me here. Please don't leave me. I'm getting emotional. Just think about this again. And the mom came back and he runs to the mom, says, Mom, Dad said he was going to leave me. Dad said he was going to leave me. And she kind of ignores it, but they end up obviously leaving. And I think to myself, this boy is no older than 5, 6 years old. And the messaging that he's getting is like, look what you did. This is your fault. Now, that parent may not see that in the moment. They may not recognize that as something that's going to be a traumatic experience for that child. But nevertheless, that is going to register in the child's subconscious. And that child may say, if I talk or if I express myself, that means bad things will happen and things are all my fault. There's something wrong with me. And if that child is a communicator by nature, they're going to feel that they're wrong all the time, right? They now go into school and they have that same programming. Shut up, stop talking, be quiet, you're being a disruption. That very same messaging is going to perpetuate and perpetuate and perpetuate until this kid gets to a place where either they completely shut off or they just feel that they are wrong, absolutely, or a mixture of both of those, right? And so that story is just a highlight on, or a microcosm of this macro idea of how we first get this programming of inadequacy. It might be through your religious doctrines. It might be through just societal programming, right? It might just be through your own parents or parental figures' own inadequacies that they put onto you and project onto you as a child. The reason why you continue them is because of obviously repetition, right? And as you start to internalize them, you start to manifest situations and circumstances that validate that belief system. And the more experiences you have and the more experiences that are clocked or programmed into your psyche, and you remember those, now they're memories, now you say, well, I have proof that I'm not good enough, right? Look at all the things that happened. Look at all the relationships that fell apart. Look at all the people that left me. Look at all the jobs that denied me. Look at all the this, that, and the third. Everything becomes viewed through the lens of inadequacy. And when you find yourself in that place, now it becomes what we call an identity of unworthiness and inadequacy. And that's where we oftentimes find ourselves as adults, right? We're now in this place where we're like, man, why did I live a life that I lived? Like, why did I not do the things I want to do? Why am I in a place I hate? Why am I around people that don't love me or don't care about me? Why am I in these abusive situations? Why do I abuse myself, more importantly? And the reason is most of us have become so addicted to inadequacy, to undeservedness, to shame, that we would rather keep the pain we know as opposed to delving into the freedom that we don't know. And I know that's difficult to digest. I know it's not easy to accept, not always, at least. Actually, it oftentimes never is easy to accept, but we're the ones who then choose to perpetuate that belief system, right? As much as we want to fault the people around us for keeping that, they are now just reflections of the belief that we already hold about ourselves. And, Dr. Joe Dispenza actually speaks on this at length, and I think he's one of the best teachers when it comes to this idea and really taking this idea home, is you become addicted to the emotions of guilt or the emotions of shame, etc. And that's the personality that forms in you. So everything is viewed through that lens. And once you start breaking it, it's literally like breaking the habit of being yourself. He actually has a book titled by the same name, Breaking the Habit of Being You. So what you start viewing as you is the person who is guilty all the time, or the person who is shame-filled, or the person who is inadequate, who is unworthy. And when you deviate from that, there is a dissonance in both your mind, a cognitive dissonance, as well as an emotional dissonance, right? The day that you decide, I'm not going to feel guilty today, the moments you don't feel guilt, your body is going to react and respond and say, wait a minute, we're supposed to be feeling guilty. Where are the guilty emotions? Where are the guilty feelings right now? And so it will communicate with the brain and say, bring up some files that are going to make us feel guilty so we can be back in homeostasis. We can be back in our comfort zone, right? Exact same thing with inadequacy or unworthiness. When you make a decision to say, I'm no longer going to entertain these feelings of unworthiness, right? I'm finally going to take care of my business. I'm going to take care of my relationships. I'm going to start communicating more. I'm going to start being real. You start creating all of these or putting these actions into play or creating these new behavioral patterns. You feel the dissonance. Your body literally says, wait, we're not used to this. Can we bring up some files that are going to remind us or get us that hit of inadequacy, that hit of shame that we've been used to for the last 10, 20, 30, 50, 60 years? That's what's happening. And that's not to say, well, you're bound by these emotions. You're a slave to these emotions. No, like that's the very same mentality that got you stuck in that space, is that victimhood mentality saying, I have no control, when in reality, you do, my friend. In fact, you're the only one who can make this change. You can only transform. I can only guide you. I can only give you the information. I can only bring you to the space right? And to lead you, but you have to do it for yourself. Like nobody else can do this. And I've held my tongue for years about a lot of things, and I was afraid that people would be offended. But now I realize, bruh, the ones who are offended, they're just not ready for the message yet. But they will be, because the one who is triggered by personal responsibility over your own life is the one who is still afraid of their power. That's really what it is. You're afraid of having to take back your life and to actually do something about it. You are afraid of the power that dwells within you. And it is only a matter of time until you say, wait a minute, I'm done with this powerlessness. I'm done with that old narrative. I got to step into the truth of who I am. And that's all I am. I'm a reflection at this moment in time of that exact message, of that exact truth that you already know. And so you think to yourself, well, how do I break this, this habit of being who I call myself? How do I break this habit of inadequacy? Well, it comes down to making a decision the same way that any other drug addict would. They have to make a decision that it matters more for them to be off of that chemical dependency than it does to still be in that space. That it matters more to be off of that than it does to be comfortable, right? As you have been for God knows how many years. And so you're the only one who can make that decision for yourself. And from that place, you're now picking up different behaviors, yes, but also different belief systems. You're now canceling old belief systems out. You're now walking and moving differently. You literally have to embody the other person, the person who is in a state of adequacy. You have to start going into the spaces of reflection, of meditation, and not making excuses about it. Get into that space of journaling and being with yourself, being away from these things and all these things that are nothing more than distractions when your inner state and your inner self, your highest self is calling you and saying, bruh, we're looking to evolve here. Sit down, get rid of the distractions, and tune in, tap in completely, and watch what happens. Because healing is a natural process. Just as it's natural on the physical body, it's natural on the emotional body, the mental state. Our original state of being is that state of peace, is that state of love, is that state of understanding and clarity, is that state of knowing who we truly are, the state of more than enoughness, adequacy, right? Worthiness. But when you continue to perpetuate that old storyline, that old narrative, you will stay in that exact same space. That's just the way it is. So, in conclusion, I want to give a plug to my very first published book, Doing Me Guilt-Free, Breaking Free from the Habit, or Breaking Free from People Pleasing, which is really a habit of people pleasing, and Unleashing Your Personal Power. Doing Me Guilt-Free. Make sure to get your copy. You will get the book size copy. This is my first manuscript. The first 15 or so went out. They were this size. They're called the note takers version. But yeah, I made sure to get the smaller version for y'all so you can carry it around with you, go to the coffee shop, put in your purse, your bag, whatever it is, right? While you're waiting for the kids, or you are the kid waiting for somebody. Make sure to get your hands on this, and I promise you it is going to be one of the best investments that you make in 2023. And I'm not just saying that from a place of arrogance and pride. I just know what's in there. And it's everything that I still need to this very day. It's not me preaching at you. It's me having a conversation with you about finally breaking those chains of people pleasing. So let's evolve. Let's grow. Let's continue to elevate, as my homegirl Hannah would say. Peace.